Hello, my name is John and I am the Traditional Liberal. As you can see, bathroom remodel is still underway. Now, one thing I see a lot of is the idea that you're either 100% with us or you're 100% against us. I see both liberals and conservatives agree on 90% of something and then cast someone out over the 10%. However, I do find this to be much more common amongst my fellow liberals, which is why we lose. An easy example is abortion. I believe that bodily autonomy is important for everyone. There's no law that requires a man to sacrifice any part of his body or life to save another's, even a child or an infant. And yet women are in many cases required to do so. But I'm also very pro-baby, and I feel that if you make that difficult decision, you should make it fast. Once a fetus can feel pain, it should be carried to term. And if you still don't want it, there are plenty of people who would. That last bit will get me labeled pro-life by many in the pro-choice crowd. But, my wife and I briefly looked into adoption for another child, and it's not easy. It's really rough. So, maybe that's a solution there. And then on trans rights. I feel that trans people deserve to be treated with dignity and compassion and protected from discrimination such as in housing or employment. However, I also feel that childhood is a confusing time and irreversible medical interventions should not be given to minors, and that biological men should not be allowed to compete in women's sports or access women's private spaces. And that gets me labeled as transphobic. This mindset is called ideological purity, and it is toxic. It splinters and divides us. Whatever happened to the enemy of my enemy is my friend? Why can't we work together where we agree and then disagree in a civilized manner? Let's talk current events. The new mayor of Seattle was recently asked if she would investigate possible daycare fraud, and her answer was one word: no. Why? Is it because it's already been investigated and found to not be a problem? Unlikely. I think it's more likely that she's decided that investigation of possible fraud would be interpreted as racism against Somali immigrants, whether the investigation targeted them or not. Because if you're not 100% supportive of any and all immigrants, no matter what, then you're racist and xenophobic. And when someone has a mindset of requiring ideological purity, they will reject a political candidate completely and allow a worse candidate to win an election. That's how we end up with Trump. Was Kamala Harris perfect? Heck no. Far from it. But man, anything would have been better than what we got. But it's what we have now. So let's talk about what we have now. I talked about the new dietary guidelines in my last video, and there are people that are angry about them for no reason other than they come from RFK, and he has a very anti-scientific approach to vaccines. But what does that have to do with diet? Why would we discard the dietary recommendations because we disagree on the vaccine recommendations? A quote attributed to Bruce Lee says, "Absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own." We could use a lot more of that. If we started to work together where we can and have civilized discourse where we disagree, then we could get a lot more done as a country. So to my fellow liberals, I say this: don't reject a person for not agreeing 100%, because that's how we lose and achieve nothing. To the conservatives, I say this: we have a lot more in common than you think. Forget owning the libs and focus instead on elevating the country. And that's all I have for you today. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to hear more, and comment below your thoughts on this. Thank you, and good night, America.